the death. Full time in Mexico City, and it is Cavalry 0, Pumas 2.
Wow, they fought to the very end. Incredible effort by Cavalry. Left everything on the field. It sounds cliche, but this is a matter of fact that they pushed a Pumas side, a fourth place team in Liga MX, right to the very end, playing with 10 men, and the emotions now boiling over. We'll try to get you some more live pictures from Mexico City. Gareth Wheeler, Jordan Wilson with you. It was a case of what could have been. Cavalry, although soaking up a lot of pressure throughout this game, really the decisive moment, Jay Herdman being sent off in the first half, Cavalry playing in just their second competitive match of 2025 against an established Pumas side. And you just feel that moment, those small margins are what determined that Pumas is moving on and Cavalry's going home.
Absolutely, Wheels. I was wrong. I said if Cavalry make it out of this tie, that we need to start talking about them differently. What they showed today, what they exemplified, how they worked and grinded, and how they just never gave up to the bitter end, I'm speaking about them differently. These guys hustled, bustled, and we'll show some clips of how they wanted it. I would even argue wanted it more than Pumas. Yes, okay, Pumas had those goals that were top-notch, and maybe Cavalry in ways could have been better. But for me, the fight to the bitter end, the fight throughout the game, this showed what this club is really made of.
That Pumas side, the reason why they're acting this way is because they've been embarrassed.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to have to grind out a 3-2 aggregate win against a Canadian club side. They're simply not. This is uncomfortable for Pumas. There's an immense level of pride for Cavalry, but still probably deep down, despite what an underdog they were heading into this, maybe some disappointment here and regret that they weren't able to knock out this Mexican giant.
We need to say it. I think Pumas, they dodged a bullet.
No kidding.
If certain things on the day were to go Cavalry's way, one being maybe Herdman not leaving his leg there and they play with 11 men, this is a different result. Like what we have from Cavalry and the way that they grinded, the way that they fought, deserves something. And for them to fall that short, this one's a painful one.
Yeah, gutsy performance by Cavalry. We got to show you, like, right up to the very end,
didn't stop.
Cavalry had chances deep into stoppage time. Remember, at this point, Cavalry been playing for more than 45 minutes, down a man.
Look at this.
Ali Musi getting in behind the back line. There's daylight, too. He decides to go near post. The goalkeeper, I don't think Padilla knew much about it. His just foot was in the right place, avoiding what would have been a catastrophe for Pumas.
I understand Musi wanted to go near post, but that one needs to be lifted and go high. But look at that right there. You see Gutierrez just holding his head because he knows if he gets that unframed, right there, we're going into extra time. They gave everything they had, Cavalry, and you can see what it means. Cobb's on the floor right there. It's just these little small margins. But I think the biggest chance, though, Wheels, with Musi, I know that's one he's going to look back on. I think shooting over the shoulder, going high there. I understand you're coming on the left foot. Maybe you want to sneak one in near post. But anything here or by the keeper's face, it's going in the goal.
It's funny, in moments like this, like, there's an immense level of pride for what Cavalry left out there in the field. But you kind of feel sick to your stomach that they lost that way.
Yeah.
The way that they did, down 10 men, and even the 2 goals conceded. Pumas look like if they were playing 11v11, they could have played for 3 days and still not be able to find the back of the net. All right, let's walk through this step by step. Your Volkswagen moment of the match. It's the moment that kind of turned everything on its head. It came in first half stoppage time, Jay Herdman being sent off.
Yeah, this is the one, right? And again, I'll say it with my chest. For me, it's a deserved red. I know people are going to say, oh, you touched the ball first, but you explained it perfectly at halftime, Wheels. The follow-through, the contact, the fact that it studs up high on his shin, it's merited. It's deserved.
Yeah. If he comes in and just hits the player in a less dangerous way, that's what I think that VAR was looking at.
Yes.
It wouldn't have been a sending off. It just wouldn't have been a penalty. Your All-State save in the match. I mean, Marco Carducci was outstanding throughout this game, throughout the tie, really. And a big penalty save at a big moment, giving Cavalry life heading into halftime.
Yeah, as the captain through and through. You look at the situation, the penalty, right before the half, you're thinking that Pumas is going to go and take the lead, but the captain stood on his head again.
Yeah, let's just reinforce. It doesn't matter if you touch the ball, if you're not in control of where your follow-through is
Dangerous
going.
play.
High His studs were showing as well. Dangerous play. I'm sorry, it's a sending off. And that's why VAR was kind of used in this, and it worked for Cavalry, reversing Charlie Trafford potentially being sent off earlier in the game. But
yes,
I think they got that right. Your Gatorade performer of the match, he came on at halftime for a Canadian, Santiago Lopez. He changed the game. Guillermo Martinez. This guy is a unit. Not enough pressure. Cavalry very compact, but that's too easy for Martinez, finding a gap right in front of Montgomery, who was immense on the night. One let-off moment and you're punished.
11 yards out, right? And I think for me, that's when you got to put a hip or a body jump with the player. And then the giveaway here by Daly, someone maybe needs to step earlier. Kabza, it's a great left foot strike from Martinez. But just these margins, just these errors, that really hurt them on the day. But there are things that they're going to want back. You got to jump with the player. Martinez needed to have that contact on that header, Wheels. You've played CB, I do as well. It's just one of these, something in the hip, something just to throw him off so the header doesn't go with so much power on goals. But it hurts to think about Cavalry because they were so good in so many areas today.
I think Montgomery thought that he was making the near post run, and he was going to hand him off to Kabza, and then he ends up being punished by just that step inside. But still, Cavalry was in it. Like, that's why it mattered right to the end, because one away goal could have pushed this tie into extra time.
And honestly, in the 80th minute, we were watching it together, I felt like something was brewing, like something was going to happen. Of course, Musi's chance, that is one that he does so well, maybe goes the near post, but even at the end with Gutierrez, there was something there for this Cavalry team. They never gave up. They never gave up.
So Pumas is a giant club in Mexican football, one of the big four, big payroll, big salaries, big expectations. What Cavalry were able to do tonight to frustrate this Pumas side, not only beating them in the last tie, was nothing short of incredible just in terms of the effort. Remember, this is game number 2 of the season for Cavalry. They're playing at altitude, which Adam Jenkins shared on the broadcast is double in terms of the altitude that Calgary is at, against the Pumas side, who are 6 games into the Clausura, the second half of their season. So the fact that you're going to watch some of these highlights and see the defensive and work rate and effort put out there tonight by Cavalry, this is what they can be really proud of, Jordan.
Absolutely. Like, through and through. They were compact. They made sure that they were first to every ball. And you see Pumas, they're just grasping at straws, trying to get balls into the box, and Cavalry were defended. There were no passengers today. Look at Camargo right here, number 10, an attacking player. Look where he is. Shielding the ball, getting stepped on, doesn't matter. Whatever he has to do for the badge. And for me, Wheels, this is the area that they can just be so proud of.
And late in the game, like the second half, when you're down a man, and that ask becomes even more. I mean, it's character, it's pride, it's a team that was prepared and ready to put on their hard hat and work over the course of the 2 legs.
The will to win. Like, you can't compete and you can't take steps.
5 against 3, by the way.
Look at that.
Camden Feo, boom.
Look at him. Timed it perfectly, but that is heart, that is desire, that is wanting to be there, wanting to defend. Look, as I said, I was wrong for saying if they make it out of this tie, we need to start talking about Cavalry different. From the effort that was displayed today, the never say die attitude, I'm speaking about them different from now on.
But this has been trademark of Cavalry from day number 1. They did it in the first season, knocking the Whitecaps out of the Canadian Championship, going on an incredible run in the regular season. What's changed here over the last 6 months, I think it starts with winning domestically, winning a North Star Cup, a playoff format. They'd already been dominant year after year in the regular season, but doing it in a cup tie brings a different feel, a different level of confidence with it. And that's what I thought they brought to the table over this. Nothing on them. They weren't outworked. They weren't outplayed. They were willing to be a little bit more pragmatic, something that we didn't see from Forge. They understood that the game was going to have ebbs and flows. And I thought they did expertly navigating their way through it.
You're so right, Wheels. The North Star Cup that they won 3 months ago, that was the coveted hardware that they needed, right, to say that we won the last game of the season. And then the cherry on top was to beat Forge, which is rightfully so their nemesis. But to have that confidence, and look at the players that came in today. You had Trafford, who started, got the red that was rescinded and took back, and it was a yellow. But then you still had Daly come into the match. Yeah. Gutierrez come in. Frazier aired. Like, this was a unit for Cavalry. It wasn't just, oh, let's rely on our 11. Like, Elva came in at the end. I thought he looked the part as well once he gets fit and sharp. This is a group now where Tommy Williams Jr. can look at 18 players and say, I trust you. You're going to do a shift for me. Kabza and Montgomery played the full 90 as a CB pairing against Mexican Giants. Like, for me, there's so much to praise this Cavalry team about and the way that they went about their business, and they deserve to get that praise.
They put themselves on the map in Mexico tonight, and I hope that's the same amongst the Canadian soccer community as well. Give them in the Canadian Premier League the respect that they deserve. An outstanding effort tonight. Let's hear from the captain, Marco Carducci, through the disappointment of defeat. His thoughts pushing Pumas to the limits.
Welcome, Marco Carducci, Cavalry FC. Marco, what are your conclusions about the game?
Obviously, we're frustrated that we weren't able to hang on. I think it was a difficult game. The circumstances went, I think, against us a lot of the time throughout the match, but we showed our character. We kept fighting to the very end, and I'm proud of the team.
Marco, what was the missing time to have another result today?
Playing with 10 men after 45 minutes is difficult, and I haven't had the chance to watch it back, but yeah, it was always going to be hard coming here. We knew that, and I think we put out a very good effort to make it very close at the end. 1 goal, and we would have went to extra time.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Marco has had his critics, his detractors, even though he's been a pillar of strength and a great guy and a great leader within the Calgary space as well. I thought he was great tonight, Jordan. He led from the back, came up with a couple big stops as well.
Yeah, and I think in a game like tonight where you're looking for your leaders to step up, but most importantly, your keeper to just kind of calm the storm. He was textbook. All that he did, the fact that he took his time when he needed to, obviously the big penalty save as well. But there was even a bigger save towards the second half where he just comes out, puts that paw and parries it to the side. But there's enough to be said about Marco Carducci, the leader. But I thought him as a goalkeeper, the performer today, was top-notch.
That is a top-notch save. Look at where the ball bounces right in front of him.
The top spin on the ball, the fact that he has to get down so quick and push it out for a corner, he's exceptional tonight.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the shot attempts, and a lot of them were from distance. It's just leading from the back, communicating. Remember, they lost their top defender, a man that played every minute last season for them in Dan Klomp at the back. New center back pairing, a converted winger starting at right back as well in Walling, and they were connected. They played together. Starts at the back. Good leadership from Marco Carducci. Here's a look at your full-time stats. 3-2 aggregate. It's just a killer, isn't it? 23 shots, only 5 on target. Cavalry weathered so many storms, but just playing a man down just put them in a little bit too big of a hole. They're so close of crawling out. If Moosey had scored there at the end, it would have been great. 30 more minutes playing a man down, but man, we would have loved every minute of it. A final score for Mexico City is Pumas 2, Cavalry 0 on the night. Pumas advanced 3-2 in aggregate. We'll head to Mexico City next to chat with our very own Christian Jack and get his take on a Herculean effort from Cavalry tonight. It's a Concacaf Champions Cup on One Song.
Are you having any fun? What you getting out of living? Who cares for what you've got if you're not having any fun? Are you having any laugh? Are you getting any loving? If other people do, why can't you have a little fun? And have a little fun.
Canadian soccer fans, we're different. We cheer on the Reds while cheering out our motherlands and each other's lands. Soccer is in our hearts. Our roots are on display. Not to divide, but to unite. Because to us, soccer's more than just a game. It's who we are. From coast to coast to coast, it connects us all. Cheers to us. Cheers to the game.
This isn't your first time flying to show support for your team, but it is the first time you use the wrong kind of paint.
It says here you could try mayonnaise.
WestJet, where your story takes off.
For generations, we've put more goodness in so you get a whole lot more out of every single delicious egg. A lot goes into a little at Burnbrae Farms.
have any choice at all.
Everyone has a choice, and every choice has a consequence.
Which do you choose?
Life's full of tough choices, isn't it?
How do you choose?
The men's under-17 World Cup qualifiers continued this afternoon right here on One Soccer with Canada taking on Curacao. Canada started the tournament with a 6-0 win over Turks and Caicos, an 8-0 win over Anguilla, and Thursday another one-sided affair. A brace from Kevin Kahn, hat-trick by Marius Añero, goals from Aiden Evans, and York United's very own Shola Jimo joined the party as well. A 7-1 victory to improve to 3-0 atop the table in Group E. They have a plus 20 goal differential.
Oh, wow.
They'll wrap up the group stage against Bermuda on Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on One Soccer. Next up here in the Concacaf Champions Cup, it's the Whitecaps' turn to take center stage as they take on Saprissa of Costa Rica. Away leg comes. It's going to be the first look at the Whitecaps under Jesper Sorensen here in 2025. Next Thursday night, February 20th, the return leg at BC Place. There's no BMX or food and garden show or whatever.
Botanical.
On the 27th in Vancouver. Gareth Wheeler, Jordan Wilson with you. A lot of expectations around this Whitecaps team. They lost some key pieces from last year. Fafa Picault, Stuart Armstrong leaves. Bring in a couple, just signed Sabi from Ligo. Jaden Nelson, former Toronto FC player, Canadian under-20 international, come in. What are your expectations around the Vancouver Whitecaps heading into the campaign, especially under new leadership in Jesper Sorensen?
Win and win comfortably. They need to go to the next round. Look, if you had to draw it up with Vancouver Whitecaps, who they could get a first round, I think they'll take the team that they got in Deportivo. Like, you're looking at them and you're saying that we got to go through and we got to make it to the next round. Absolutely. Former
Whitecap Kendall Waston's there. I think it's a tournament that if they do make a run, it can set their season off on the right tone because a lot of negativity has been surrounding this team. The team is for sale. What their future looks like. It's like a cloud hovering over them. A very likable manager in Vanni Sartini out. The winter window hasn't necessarily improved the team from where I stand.
Yeah.
So I think they need some results here, Jordan.
Yeah, for sure. There's insecurity, like you alluded to. I totally agree with that. But a good start, and I will say probably with Vancouver Whitecaps, they still have that core, which is what you're going to rely on throughout a season. Certain players to get things going. I know Gald's going to show up. He's the type of guy that he's one of those players that doesn't need long to get fit or needs a full preseason. He just has that quality. If his body's feeling good, he's one that can maybe bag a brace on the day.
Yeah, Gald, White, Kubas, Veselinovic.
The players
still
have been
so
there.
much talent in this team, and we can't wait to see how they kick off 2025 next week right here on One Soccer. A Martinez brace sinks Cavalry, despite what was an impressive effort here tonight. We'll put a bow on it next. It's the Concacaf Champions Cup, and you're watching your home for Canadian soccer right here on One Soccer. Here's an updated look at the Concacaf Champions Cup bracket. Pumas goes on to face Costa Rican side Alajuelense. You see that if the Vancouver Whitecaps can get past Saprissa, they'll take on Monterrey, who look a much more complete, well-rounded side than the Pumas side that we watched over the last two legs. Gareth Wheeler, Jordan Wilson with you, putting a bow on what was quite the effort by Cavalry tonight, a case of what could have been. And it wouldn't feel complete without the fantastic storytelling of Christian Jack, who got to witness what was an incredible night of football pitch side in Mexico City. KJ, what are your takeaways from what we witnessed here tonight?
Yeah, it's another night of reflection for Canadian soccer. I think another step forward in many ways. Certainly a special night for the domestic league. Marco Carducci told me after the game, as you mentioned, as you probably heard, you know, only 7 years old. This Pumas team is 70 years old. And as the last drum is banging behind me and they walk out the stadium, these fans who walk home tonight and back into their vehicles and head home into Mexico City's crazy traffic will know that they were in a game. They know that when they came here today, it was not going to be easy. They now know the name of Cavalry FC and Marco Carducci of the Canadian Premier League. And the CPL showed once again that they belonged in this competition. Yes, we can talk about Pumas. We're nowhere near as good as Monterrey, and they're not necessarily the giant that we expected when the draw came out. But Cavalry gave them a game, and Cavalry gave them 2 games over 180 minutes. And for that, we should all be eternally grateful. We get used to moral victories in Canadian soccer. When you've been around as long as we all have covering the sport, it gets a little bit tiring sometimes, certainly with the national team. But we've come a different path now. We've come to a different stage with the national team and with Canadian soccer in general. Tonight is another moral victory, but it feels like that's okay. It would have been nice to get over the line, but we all knew it was a major uphill climb for Cavalry. In the end, they just weren't able to get over the line, but they certainly left their mark here on Mexico City tonight.
KJ, you're there live in the flesh. You saw the face of those Cavalry players as they left the pitch. Where did they go from here? And what would you say is the biggest lesson that they took from tonight?
Well, I'll go back to Forge first of all, Jordan, on that question. When I was with them last year in Guadalajara, Bobby Smirniotis gave a marvelous team talk the next day. I was privileged to see it, and I could see in that the experience of getting close but not getting over the line, they knew it was a major, major motivation for them heading into the domestic season, almost as if, look, if we can run a team like that close, then there's no fear domestically. And that's not just Canadian Premier League. That's Canadian Championship. You know, I spoke to Tobias Warszewski about this morning. It's, 9 months ago, what was Cavalry known as? The team that played well during the regular season, but in knockout competitions, they didn't show up. Well, that's no longer this team. So what does that mean? Well, after performing so well in the playoffs and winning a Canadian North Star Cup, and then coming here and performing so well now, they're on the opposite side of Toronto FC and Forge and Montreal. They'll fancy the chances to go far in that competition. So, look, it's going to take a few weeks, by the way. Shamit Shom can't walk as he went past me here. Charlie Trafford looks like he's damaged his foot. There's a walking and wounded here, as you'd expect when they're still in their pre-season. Thankfully now for them, they've got, I think, 6 or 7 weeks before that first game back in Hamilton in a rematch against Forge. But, Jordan, you know what it's like when you play in these major competitions and you go back to play domestically. No fear, and the rest of the Canadian Premier League be looking at Cavalry again going, we've got to go through them if we want a trophy.
KJ, it was never going to be easy for Cavalry. We've documented this before. Match number 2 of the season, taking on a Mexican giant. It just seems like going down to 10 men was one step too far, just in terms of an ask from this group. Yet they pushed right to the end. Like Ali Musi, that chance in the 92nd minute could have gone either way. I mean, the testament to like what this team put in terms of their work rate, what they left on their field. It's hard not to come away from a game like tonight without an immense feeling of pride about what this group was able to show on the fields.
Yeah, completely. Pride is a great word. You know, I've been privileged to be in this country for about 3.5 days now, and whatever your preference, soccer or football, I'll take either. They are crazy about it here. absolutely crazy. Every restaurant, every bar, every sports station, it's 24/7. It doesn't matter whether it's Europa League from Serbia, Mexican football from matches from Honduras, Colombia. They talk about it, and they've talked a lot this week about Forge, and they've talked a lot this week about Cavalry, and they now know about these teams. And Cavalry, as I said, they've left a mark here. They go back to Calgary now, this small club in Concacaf, showing that they're a lot bigger than many people thought. And you alluded to it. The Moosey chance at the end, they had the opportunities there. The 10 men was always going to be very difficult. They couldn't keep the ball, and with one extra player on there, and when Martinez came on and added some class, you could see that those two finishes were probably just enough for them. But even the goals, they were preventable. Certainly the second one where they gave away the ball in the midfield. But that's just what happens with the waves and waves of pressure, and you just succumb underneath it. But yeah, look, Tommy Wheeldon Jr. and Cavalry got everything to be proud of tonight. And again, another monumental step forward for Canadian club football.
Well, the lights went out, unfortunately, for Cavalry, and the lights are going off behind you as well. Great work by you, your entire team, Charlie O'Connor-Clark. Safe travels home, and we'll do it all again as the Canadian Premier League season kicks off April 5th. Thanks for this, KJ. Christian Jack joining us from Mexico City. Nights like this are important to remember.
Absolutely.
And it also sets the stage for what should be an exciting 2025 campaign. Never mind the Canadian Premier League season. It's like these moments in the Canadian Championship where the CPL sides have started to beat the MLS sides. It really sets the stage nicely, seeing a performance like this over two legs by Cavalry here.
I think also, too, another thing to add to your point, Wheels, is now MLS teams, before there was a time a few years ago where you're playing 5 of your starters. You can't do that anymore. These CPL teams are coming for blood. They want to make sure that they're the first to win it, whether it be Cavalry, whether it be Forge, whether it be another CPL team. They're going for blood.
Just so you're aware, those were 9 starting players from Pumas, one of the better sides in Liga MX. They weren't messing around tonight, and it took them, well, for Cavalry to go down a man and for them to bring on the regular number 9 in Martinez in order to punch their ticket to the next round of this competition. Vancouver Whitecaps Saprissa next week. We're at One Soccer. You're home for the Concacaf Champions Cup. Lionel Messi, Inter Miami in the competition. LAFC, Club America. We're looking forward to it each and every step of the way, but we will miss the Canadian Premier League contingent moving forward, at least here in 2025. The Foot Soldiers showed up, and Cavalry showed out. Unfortunately, on the night, it just wasn't quite good enough. A Martinez brace sinks Cavalry. They go home, and Pumas scratch and claw and somehow move on. On behalf of Jordan Wilson and everyone here at One Soccer, I am Gareth Wheeler. This is the Concacaf Champions Cup right here at One Soccer.
This isn't your first time flying to show support for your team, but it is the first time you use the wrong kind of paint.
It says here you could try mayonnaise.
WestJet, where your story takes off.